Welcome into a AFC title game victory Monday edition of Mic'd Up. It is the second best victory Monday of the entire calendar year. There's only one victory Monday that can top this feeling, and that hopefully will be in 2 weeks. The Kansas City Chiefs back in the Super Bowl where they belong after taking care of business. We got a lot to get to today, a lot here on this edition of Mic'd Up. Jake and Fulton Caster with you. For the next 3 hours, we'll be talking plenty of Chiefs. We'll be talking about Patrick LeVon Mahomes II. The Chris Jones game is what we will refer to this from now on. Is it the ankle game? How will we remember this one? We'll talk plenty today, including trash talk. I thought, Fulton, we have explained this very well on the show about trash talk. I feel like we have. We will get into it again. We will talk with Jesse Newell, Kansas City star, covers the Kansas City Chiefs. We will get to head coach Andy Reid. He will speak with the media. We will talk with, we'll hear from Chris Jones, Frank Clark, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. We got a lot to get to on this AFC Championship Victory Monday edition of Mic'd Up.
Remember when I left the show on Thursday saying I could be in a very bad place come Monday?
Or you could.
Or I could have been in a very good place.
Not good.
Great.
Great.
Amazing. Fantastic. Ecstatic. Yeah, we're living in that much more fun reality for me.
Exactly.
I will openly say I did emotionally edge this weekend, and I've never been happier to lose money. I have never been happier to lose money. Because I emotionally hedged because I was not going to be okay. Instead, we live in a reality where the Chiefs are about to the Super Bowl.
Hit us up on our Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. Very simple, very easy. Chiefs fans, give us your thoughts on the game yesterday. 785-272-9429. You can check us out on YouTube. Very simple, very easy. Having some technical difficulties with our website. We will get it up there on our website, 580wibw.com. But go to YouTube. Very simple, very easy. Just go to YouTube, type in Sports on 580. It's very simple. You'll see the mic'd up 580 Sports Talk image. Click on that if you want to watch the show. Interact with us via the comments on the YouTube page. Also, let us know on the Big O Tires text line as we talk all things Chiefs beating the Cincinnati Bengals. There was a lot to digest in that one. We're going to talk about Chris Jones. We'll get to a lot, but we have number 15 and you don't. And that is the difference. This is why we say you got to go out and find the dude. There are a lot of dudes out there, but there's only one number 15. Joe Burrow, great quarterback.
Fantastic.
Josh Allen, great quarterback.
Pretty good.
Yeah, you can win with those guys, obviously. There are a lot of great quarterbacks. There's only one 15. There's only one Patrick Mahomes. And I said this on Friday, that game was even more important for the narrative of everybody than maybe the actual outcome itself. This game just added to the legacy of Patrick Mahomes. On one leg, he went 29 of 43 for 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and maybe one ball that you go, yeah, that might have been interceptable, right? We hear all this stuff of that was an interceptable ball,
Yeah,
right?
turnover-worthy plays,
Yes.
potential interceptions. That's been a really in vogue
Yes.
term, weirdly enough, since Patrick Mahomes came into the league.
And I don't think he even threw one of those. And he had 3 rushes for 8 yards on an ankle that most people don't play on. Most people couldn't even play with. This is what Patrick Mahomes had to say after the game about his ankle and how limited he was.
Yeah, I tried to a couple times in the game where I was trying to get through spots that I usually could get through, and you could see that I didn't have that burst that I usually have. So I got the ball in my hands quickly. I think you saw that, and I threw probably a few more checkdowns than I usually would throw, and relied on my teammates to make the plays happen, and that's what they did.
He didn't have the burst. You could see that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's 29 of 43, 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptable passes, 3 rushes, 8 yards. Running Mahomes is going to 11, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the on another tier Mahomes. In the pocket, slicing and dicing Mahomes is a 10. That was incredible. We have him. You don't. This is what it feels like to have the Jordan. This is what it feels like to have the Gretzky. This is what it feels like if you're watching soccer and you see Messi. We have that. That's our guy. He's the quarterback of our team that we cheer for. Like he's prime best quarterback in the league almost anywhere of any time at this point in time. Is he the greatest of all time? No, he's not. But if you right now at the prime of their years, I think there might only be 2 other quarterbacks, maybe 1, who is this unbelievable and can win with guys like no Kadarius Toney, no Juju, no Hardman, on a bum ankle, Travis Kelce not 100%. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He is that guy. That was the difference in this game. Because Fulton, I will be the first to admit, I didn't know it was going to happen. I didn't. And the reason why I didn't know it was going to happen is because this game felt like every single Bengals Chiefs game the last 3 years. Kansas City gets up early. The Bengals had 0 yards after a full quarter.
Yeah, that's 0 net yards after 1 quarter.
And I said, we're only up by less than a touchdown. We're up by 6. Had some drops. Perfectly placed balls. Couldn't hold on them. Some big penalties. Holding call on a few different times, right? Since he's making some unreal plays, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase do what they do against the Kansas City Chiefs. That's just what happens. They come back. They make it a game. The Chiefs have a awful turnover by their best player. I mean, what I'm saying is exactly what happened in Cincinnati.
Yeah,
everything to a T.
The overall game script really, it felt similar to every other game that the Chiefs and Bengals have played, and which casts the doubt. And I'm not gonna lie to anybody. I had the same doubt. I probably had the doubts creep in late. Judging by what I saw from everybody else, I think I had the doubts creep in later than most, which I either is stupid confidence or a weird blind belief that I shouldn't have had given history or whatever. But yeah, when it came down to that fourth quarter, I would say for most Chiefs fans, you're a bold-faced liar if you said you thought this team had it in the bag, because the Bengals had 2 opportunities under 5 minutes to go win the game, which in the last 3 meetings, they did. That's just what they did. When the Bengals got the ball back under 2 minutes, when the Chiefs punted that ball away, which we can go at length about some Andy Reid's decision making in the game. I just want to be clear with this from the jump. The only reason he punted twice inside his own 40, inside the Bengals 40, was because it was brick city cold. Because that ball didn't move. If he gets those same opportunities in Arizona, Harrison Butker's kicking a 57-yard field goal. Like, we can quibble at that point about field goals versus going for it. Chiefs fans, don't worry about Andy Reid getting overly conservative with punts in those spots going forward. He punted because the ball wouldn't travel. You couldn't kick from there. But moreover, when the Chiefs punted and the Bengals were like, all right, we get the ball, we're at about our 25 with 2 minutes, and that 2-minute warning hit, I, like many others, were like, the Bengals are just going to go. We're going to get into field goal range. We're going to kick a game-winning field goal.
All they needed was 45 yards.
No, that's all they needed. Evan McPherson in our eye hole was what was going to happen. Like, because that is what the script was. And part of the reason the Chiefs won this game is because Patrick Mahomes had his legacy game that all the true GOATs, the Hall of Famers, get. You know, this was his flu game, his Tiger Woods at Torrey Pines. You know, his moment to where you're watching him going, how in the hell is that man playing right now? Because there were a few, and this was a very small minority, so I won't act like this was a prevailing opinion, but there were people legitimately out there wondering if the Chiefs were intentionally overblowing the injury and that Mahomes' ankle was actually fine. Now, watch that man after he... Now, I will give him credit. He looked pretty good that first half because the Bengals didn't do the thing I said they should do, which is force him to tweak it. Go back and watch that game from the moment he tweaked it. In the third quarter, he made that throw on the run, landed, and starts hopping. He was not moving the same the rest of the game. Even before, like, he even noted in the audio we played, he did not have that burst all game.
And you can
he is
see
on
it.
One leg is what he is on. And he made an amazing play. And that was half of why they won this game. The other half is they had the most dominant player on the football field, and his name was not 15.
The effort by Mahomes in the game, and today our list is going to center around the biggest plays in your mind, because there were so many big plays in this game on both sides of the football. Big fourth down plays in this game on both sides of the football. It truly was a haymaker. And the Bengals, they got blasted in the face. They got a right hook right to the chin, and they got up and they punched back. They really, really did. The Chiefs, just like they've done, they've led every game going into the fourth quarter. This was the one game.
4 games,
that was different.
4 fourth quarter leads.
And to the victor goes the spoils, and the Kansas City Chiefs end up with the victory. But this is going to end up being the game that puts the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. This is the game that is going to continue to turn the Chiefs into the villain. Chiefs fans, you just have to accept it. And there are 2 ways that you can accept being the villain. You can accept it by anybody who gets upset and, says you're overrated and all of that. You can just, you don't say anything, and you can do
it that way.
You can just be nice. You can do it.
Or you can do it my way.
Or you can just say, you know what? I've been a Chief fan my entire life, and I've gone through 20 years of no playoff wins. I've gone through Tyler Palco and Brody Croyle and Kyle Orton. Steve DeBerg and Elvis Gerback weren't terrible.
Yeah, I don't know if they deserve to be put in the same realm as some of the guys we're mentioning here.
But now you've got the guy. Mm-hmm. Don't be apologetic.
We're better than you. We know it. Suck it up.
They hate us because they ain't us.
Yep. As I call it, embrace being the heel.
Hey, Chiefs fans, congratulations. because we know Chiefs fans and KU fans overlap, right? Would you agree with
Yeah,
that?
for the most part.
There's some
It's a very similar region.
There's some, you got some.
It's a very, very large part of the Venn diagram.
You've got K-State fans, KU fans, and they don't intersect.
No, they don't.
Guess what that does? Chiefs fans.
Yeah,
they do. Okay,
they do.
Congratulations, you're Duke basketball. Congratulations, Patrick Mahomes is JJ Redick. He is the guy who people are going to hate now. You either just say, no, look out, because Patrick Mahomes wants to be liked. I think Patrick Mahomes does. We're going to hear from Patrick Mahomes because we're going to talk about the trash talk situation because, ooh, boy, did Andy Reid even brought it up. All right, we're going to
They heard y'all. They kept those receipts.
We're going to get into that. You just have to know that this is going to help with the Chiefs and the Mahomes because Mahomes is going to be, lauded and everything. But at some point in time in the next 2 weeks, it's going to turn.
Yep. And
people are going to start critiquing Patrick Mahomes, and you're not going to like it.
Get ready for a lot of Jalen Hurts is actually better talk in the next 2 weeks.
And then,
I'm really excited for that narrative.
Yeah. And the narrative is going to be, well, Patrick Mahomes really hasn't played well in the Super Bowl because they're going to talk about the first 3 quarters and they're going to talk about the game against Tampa. Okay.
When actually he played phenomenally. He just got no help.
So get ready for that. And you're going to want to defend your guy. And then if the Chiefs win and they win this Super Bowl,
the evil empire has officially been crowned and has arrived.
This Death Star is fully here and operational. And if the Chiefs win it, Chiefs fans, don't apologize.
No.
Just turn into the Patriots.
Scream it from the rooftops.
You've got the guy, the best player. That game proved it. Joe Burrow, healthy Joe Burrow, had 2 chances in that game. Didn't get it done.
Patrick Mahomes had a sardine can and an aluminum foil as his wide receivers and won.
And found a way to get it done.
Folks, we had Marcus Kemp catching a 4th quarter pass.
On one leg in the second half. One leg.
What they do.
From the Big O Tires text line, any of you jabronis picked against my Chiefs?
I love Travis Kelce. Man is a human quote machine. I love Trav. God, I love that man. Know your role and shut your mouth, Mayor of Cincinnati. Who shot? I'll give him it. I'll let her know. The Mayor of Cincinnati tweeted today. I'm just like, yeah, probably shouldn't have said anything. I'm just going to go back into my corner.
And you've got Travis Kelce.
So thank God, man.
Woo! Burrow had my ass. Woo! It's my hometown.
Burrow had my ass is I may have to get a t-shirt. I may have to get a t-shirt.
I'm sorry, but does that not describe those 2 guys completely different?
Pat trying to be a little quiet, just go over the moment, and then just Trav busting in, being loud.
No, I just want to thank God. And here's Travis Kelce. Burrow had my ass. Are you kidding me? That couldn't describe both of those 2 individuals more. I thought that was fantastic. We got a lot to get to. We'll get to our weekend's takeaways and fails. And this should be dubbed as either on the offensive side, the ankle game. On the defensive side, that's the Chris Jones game. We'll get to that coming up. Weekends, takeaways, and fails. What do you got?
Quarterbacks are important. That is, I think, with the central thing you can take away. Because the Chiefs won a game even with their quarterback on one leg because he was that good. The Bengals stayed in that game because their quarterback is that good. The Eagles got a good one running their ship. And the 49ers partly got smoked because they ran out of quarterbacks. Like, there's more than a few reasons I think that NFC Championship game was a mismatch. I thought even with Brock Purdy healthy the whole game, the Niners were going to lose by 10 or more. Because I just think that's where the run ends. But they got smoked because they ran out of humans to throw the football.
I normally don't feel bad for teams.
Neither do I. I'm usually, whatever happens. I only marginally feel bad for San Fran.
I feel a little bad. I do, because there's
nothing they could have done. They were just
pushing a snowball up Mount Everest. You had no chance. None. My weekend takeaway and fail. I'm gonna go very niche for this one, and then we're gonna talk a lot, obviously, about Chris Jones. Taylor Robertson. She's from McPherson. Yeah. She is a basketball player for the Oklahoma Sooners basketball team. She is arguably the greatest three-point shooter in women's basketball history. She has made now over 500 threes from McPherson High School for Oklahoma. That's incredible. Taylor Robertson, unbelievable talent. One of the best shooters ever. I don't care. Where you're at. She's incredible. Coming up next, the Chris Jones game. Media here in just a little bit. We will try to get to that when we can. We'll also hear from Jesse Newell coming up in the 2 o'clock hour. Overreaction, proper reaction. Everyone loves the list. Let's relive yesterday's effort. Biggest plays of the game. Now, if you want to throw in biggest plays that involve the Bengals that went against the Chiefs, we can discuss that as well. But that'll be Everyone Loves the List for today. As always, hit us up on the Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. There's so many great things that are happening because of last night. I think now the thing that topped it is Creed Humphrey and Jerick McKinnon in uniform. Jerick McKinnon's got his, face ski kind of cap on that covers his ears and it's just his face open. Creed Humphrey, and they're in their pads, still in their undershirts under their pads. They got their pants on and everything. And there's a photo of Jerick McKinnon and Creed Humphrey going to the field bar that's inside where the players walk in and go to the locker room, grabbing. Creed Humphrey has 2 cases of Michelob Ultra underneath his right arm, and Jerick McKinnon has as well. And they're just walking back to the locker room.
That's amazing.
They literally stole the beer. They stole the beer. They're not allowed to just take that. That has to.
Put it on Creed's tab. He can afford it.
Good.
Put it on Jet's tab. He can afford it.
I want to drink beer with Creed Humphrey.
That sounds fun in principle.
No, it does. But that doesn't mean you got to hang with him beer for beer.
That's the dangerous part.
No.
Is it feels like Creed would try to get you to hang with him.
No, man.
I'd die.
No, you do.
I'd die.
Do it as best you can.
No, I would. No. That's why. Because even if Creed didn't try to get me to, my brain is going to make me try and hang with Creed Humphrey if I was drinking with Creed. I am well and dead before Creed's probably really feeling it. Because that's a big old boy. It sounds like a great time.
My large adult Sooner son, as I've said on this show the last 3 years.
It does, though, fully sound like the absolute most fun time in the world.
Yes.
Would be drinking. Honestly, with most offensive linemen is the answer, because they're just, we've said a lot on this show, they're just a different breed.
I hope Creed Humphrey and Jerick McKinnon drank those beers together. That would make me so happy.
It's also the best part of that, before we get to the
running
actual part
back,
of this,
and then you got
that's
O-line.
That's what's the best part, is you got Creed doing that along with McKinnon. You got a big old center, and then just a man who describes himself as having short man syndrome.
Yes.
That's the best part, too.
From the Big O Tires text line, drinking with him would be incredible.
Yes.
Yes, it would be absolutely incredible. This will be remembered because of Mahomes' ankle, and it'll be remembered kind of as the ankle game, I think, and justifiably so.
Yeah.
It will. But the true diehards, this game will be known as the Chris Jones game. Chris Jones was the best player on the field for either team at any point. Chris Jones changed the entire game for the Kansas City Chiefs. Chris Jones took this one personal, and if you didn't see the beginning of the game, My man was so emotional. He was crying during the national anthem. If you didn't then realize that he was about to do something incredible, I don't know what to tell you. This game was everything to Chris Jones. I mean, everything. This is what Chris Jones said in the post game about how big this game was for him.
I think I planned for this game. My whole offseason was dedicated to this game. I missed a few big plays last year. Unfortunate that I was able to move forward, and I put that on my shoulders. So this offseason, I dedicated my whole offseason to making sure when that moment calls for me again, specifically, that I'll answer the call.
He dedicated everything to this game because of what occurred last year, how he didn't get it done. That was that important for Chris Jones. And Chris Jones played in this game 82% of the snaps in this game. All right? 82%. There weren't many games in which Chris Jones played in 82% of games. In fact, the last time that he played in more than 82%, the last Bengal game at 85%. Like, this one meant something for Chris Jones. And Chris Jones had 8 pressures on Sunday, 3 sacks. One of them, he didn't get the sack. 2 by actual Chris Jones, 5 incompletions. Not a single positive yard was generated by the Bengals when Chris Jones got pressure. That's not including the time that Chris Jones took up 2 guys himself and allowed George Karlaftis to get a sack, Frank Clark to get a sack, Dana to get a sack. Did I also mention in this game that Chris Jones also had 3 tackles for losses, 5 quarterback hits? He single-handedly stopped the Cincinnati Bengals in the fourth quarter on those last 2 drives. Frank Clark ended the game for the Bengal offense with the sack. And this is what's funny, is I don't know if you've seen this as well, Fulton, but there's video of Chris Jones who lined up outside and inside in this game. The very last play that he was on the field for, you can see Carlos Dunlap motioning Chris Jones, hey, come inside, I'll go outside. And Chris Jones said, nope, I'm staying out here. Have you seen that video?
Mm-hmm.
Where he's like, no, I'm good. I'm good where I'm at. This was Chris Jones on the last sack.
Yeah, the last play, I think it was Gunfar. They end up bringing the tight end up, motioning out the back. And when they gave me that look earlier in the game, I was getting the tackle and the guard. And I figured since the tight end was on the line, they was on the max protection, keeping the tight end in, making them chip the D in. So in my head, I was thinking maybe I can get a one-on-one with the tight end. If not, I can get a one-on-one with the tackle, and I feel pretty good about it.
He did. He got one-on-one with Hakeem Adeniji, and he blew by him.
I love Hakeem to death, but that is a terrible mismatch.
That's shows you there. He saw that at the beginning of the game. He knew he was going to get either the tight end or the tackle. The tight end went out in a route and Hurst, and he flew by. He saw that right away. That's why he didn't want to switch with Carlos Dunlap. He wanted to be on the edge, and he got there in an instant. The other big-time play in that game, right? Intentional grounding. Intentional grounding. That was caused by Chris Jones. Now, it didn't help because they ended up getting the first down on that series, but Chris Jones was an absolute monster in this game. He had 5 negative plays himself, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. Throw in 5 QB hits, okay? That is 10 times that he literally knocked somebody to the ground out of 54 plays. He played in 54 plays. That's not counting the pressures. He was everywhere. And then when he wasn't, he was taking us. I cannot explain why Chris Jones, that was Aaron Donald-esque in the Super Bowl last year. It really, really was. And we have talked about this so much, how much different this Bengals offensive line was against the Chiefs in week, 13. You had Lael Collins on the right side. You had Jonah Williams on the left side. You had Karras on the right, or Kappa on the right side. You had your 5 starting offensive linemen. They had 2 starters, and one of the guys, Karras, is dinged up, and then 3 backups. Oh, everybody said, look how great they were against the Bills. The Bills don't have Chris Jones.
Yeah, that was the big thing in the comparison of the situations. Like, well, the patchwork line held up against Buffalo. Well, Buffalo didn't have their dynamic pass rusher because they didn't have Von Miller. Their guys are just kind of eh. 2, and it's not talked about enough, snow slows pass rush. When you're in a bit of a blizzard, it slows down your pass rush and changes the equation. So that game was never going to have a proper lens for identifying how the Chiefs pass rush might do. But even with all that in mind, the Chiefs were in the same opportunity last year with that pass rush. Because it wasn't that the Bengals offensive line was banged up. It just wasn't good.
And I think they improved. Look at what we saw in week 12 till then. Karlaftis has gotten better.
Yeah.
Frank Clark in the playoffs turns into Reggie White in the playoffs.
Speaking of that, Frank Clark picked up another sack and a half in this game. Do you know how close Frank is now to being the all-time sack leader in the playoffs?
He's a sack away.
He is 3 away from being the all-time leader. He is currently 3rd now at 13 and a half. He is a sack away from tied for 2nd.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah. Not because McGinnis has got 16.
Yep.
Yeah.
He is 3 sacks away from being the all-time playoff sack leader. It makes no damn sense.
None. Absolutely none.
But that's the thing. The Chiefs last year, because I think that was the thing going into this that I think some had reservations on, but I also don't think enough was discussed with something. It was almost a foregone conclusion the Chiefs should have been able to get home in this game. A similar rush, not identical, because there are some new pieces to this and guys playing better, but the Chiefs had a chance last year against a bad offensive line for the Bengals that had given up 9 sacks to Tennessee to make a play to get into a bad field and cause havoc, and they didn't do it. So it was not a foregone conclusion they were going to be able to do what they needed to do because they'd had those chances before.
Mm-hmm.
And this year they did it because guys were playing at a better level. The overall pass rush plan that Steve Spagnuolo and his staff put together was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Great ways to scheme one-on-ones for multiple guys. And then the Chiefs did the thing they hadn't been able to do in 3 different meetings. They just held on to Burrow. Think about the very first sack of the game. Mike Dana gets there, and Burrow squeaks out. And I don't know if anyone else is like me. I see that, and I just go, God, son of a... Because you watch him pop out, and that's what kept happening. But this time was different because multiple guys won. Frank Clark was able to come behind and finish things off. That is the difference for this Chiefs pass rush right now, is multiple guys are winning at the same time. The complementary pass rush is working in such a beautiful way now. But it starts and stops with Chris Jones. That, like, when he says he built an entire offseason around this moment, you have to believe it, because there are numerous times Chris Jones just said, we're not losing this game. The last play before half, no statistic comes of it. It is a play that you cannot identify in the scorebook because he gets nothing for it. Chris Jones single-handedly prevented a touchdown because Joe Burrow with another half second probably gets, Higgins in the flat for a touchdown.
Yeah, throws a more accurate ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Chris Jones destroys a double team, blows through 2 300-pound men, knocks into Burrow, makes him throw that ball out faster. The Bengals settle for a field goal. That was the story of this game. Chris Jones all season long had been calling game for this Chiefs team. That when they needed it, when they needed offensive play to wrap this thing up, Chris Jones said, I'm going to go do it. Because that's what I'm here for. That is who I am here to be. And he finally was it. He finally was.
From the Big O Tires text line, Mr. Jones going to get his bag now. Yeah, you have to pay him. You
Yes.
absolutely have to pay him.
Yes.
I don't care what it costs. You build around Chris Jones.
Yeah.
You ride Chris Jones. Pay him, restructure his contract, give him another 4-year deal. I don't give a damn. You don't trade this guy.
No.
There's a reason why you traded Tyreek Hill, because you've got number 15 who can throw for 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions on one leg, to Marcus Kemp, Kadarius Toney, a beat up Travis Kelce, and MVS. We'll get to MVS, a little bit later.
Yeah.
That's why you can pay 4 guys on a team. He's one of them.
Yeah, the calculate, because I've seen that a lot when it comes up to paying Chris Jones. People that thought of, what does it mean when you trade Tyreek Hill, you sign Chris Jones? Why are you willing to pay one guy and not pay one? The Chiefs will forever probably never highly pay a wide receiver top league money ever again.
Mm-hmm.
And Chiefs need to be prepared for that, because 15 can mask that. And he's now shown it this year. Like, you get a couple of mid-level guys, you can get it done. As long as you have Travis Kelce, we know that part of the math works. Now, with Kelce, whenever Kelce's career is over, which is going to be a very sad day, that's going to happen, then the Chiefs might at that point reevaluate their receiver situation. But
I think you need to have one dude.
You need one. I think Mahomes.
You need one dude.
And I'll word it differently now than other times. He does not need one stud receiver. He needs a stud pass catcher.
You need one dude.
Yeah. He needs one dude.
Yeah.
To help him out. Outside of that, then you just start getting a few different guys around that have very specific skill sets. I think the Chiefs will be able to accomplish that offensively. Defensively, that's where you need to be able to pay probably more than a few guys, because you don't have 15 to make up for that side of the ball.
From the Big O Tires text line, the secondary made a huge difference as well. They did.
The Rooks played so well.
And they needed to.
Yeah.
They needed to play so well because Snead goes down early. Yeah. Now Williams, because we talked about it. We said Watson didn't play in that game. Williams did. Mm-hmm. And look what happened. Snead goes down.
Williams
and now
do it again.
You got Williams doing it again. And he came up big. And Brian Cook, who had...
Yeah, shout out Brian Cook, who... If you watch that game, after 1 or 2 plays of not doing some things intelligently, was getting picked on.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Burrow was like, I found my weakness that I can pick on. Makes one of the biggest plays of the game.
Yeah. You got Jalen Watson, got the benefit of Burrow getting shook early on.
Yep.
He throws the interception, and then the great play by Cook, who got a hand up and it's intercepted.
Great job by Williams to track that ball.
McDuffie played well, had that big tip. No, they played well. But Chris Jones he got a sack.
He finally did it. Now you all can shut up about it.
And this is what Chris Jones had to say.
There's been a lot made by you guys. Y'all make it bigger than what it is. I really personally do not care about stats in the playoffs. My job is to make sure that I play hard, play physical, set a difference out of the line of scrimmage, and make my teammates around me make plays. And whether it's taking a double team the whole game, or whether it's getting the one-on-one and winning. I think you guys actually blow it out of proportion. It don't really matter to me, but I'm fortunate that you guys can have another story. Chris Jones finally got a sack, Did
Chris Jones enter your mind at all when you got it?
No. I knew it entered you guys' mind. Like, Chris Jones finally got it. That wasn't a goal for me, okay? I just want you guys to know. But you guys, I understand the logic of it. 11 games, no sacks, so I get it.
4 more. So Chris Jones, He came up absolutely big in every facet of this game, and it was so much fun to watch. It really, really was.
It was a pleasure.
No Willie Gay. I mean, you got Darius Harris out there playing. That was incredible. I do want to mention this. I thought this was really cool. From Rick Burkholder, the director of athletic,
Head of the athletic training department.
He's like
I can't remember Rick's specific title.
Director of health.
Yeah, he leads the athletic training department. Head trainer.
And everybody says he's one of the best.
Yeah.
After the game, he tweets this out. Thanks for the support. And if you love the way Patrick played, then love this person. And it's a picture of a very tiny woman holding the Lamar Hunt trophy. She's small.
Yeah.
And her name is Julie Freimeyer. Okay. And then he says this. He says, thanks for the support. If you love the way Patrick played, thank this person, Julie Freimeyer. She designed and executed the rehab. And there's a picture of this tiny little girl. Not little girl. Sorry. I apologize. Tiny woman. She's the MVP. Like, you don't think that your athletic trainers matter? That woman should give her a ring.
Yeah.
Give her whatever she wants. If she needs a new car, we laugh and joke that Chad Henne will never ever have to buy a beer.
Yeah.
Julie
should be the same way with
Julie
getting Pat
Freimeyer should be driving a Porsche. She should get Joe's for life. Nobody would know. She could walk into the room and nobody would know that she is one of the reasons why that he was able to go.
I have said this numerous times, usually about the Chargers specifically, because they just encapsulate it so well. But we see these teams that get these just rash of injuries and never seem to be healthy, and their guys don't recover well. And no one ever really talks about it. Man, the Chiefs have one of the best athletic training departments in the league, and it is not close. And I like that Rick shouted out, the ones who did the specific treatment, and that entire department's getting some love this week, because it's not taught. We always seem to talk about trainers when things go bad, and we go, but man, their trainer's not really getting them ready. It's also important to note when they get these guys ready faster than they should, because it's a skill. It is a skill, and they are important. I'm glad they're getting some love.
It's awesome. Shout out, Julie Freimeyer. Never knew you, but man, we're glad to have you aboard. We'll hear from Andy Reid and talk a little trash talk coming up. Day. That is right. It is a fantastic Monday. Victory Mondays are the best. We're going to get to Everyone Loves the List, our top 4 plays of the game. We'll talk a little trash talk. We will get to all of that. But right now, Andy Reid met with the media. Here's what Big Red had to say.
2 questions here for you. Understanding that he will have to go through the concussion protocol, but what is your concern level with L'Jarius Sneed's availability this weekend, hopefully for the Super Bowl? And I'll have a second one.
Yeah, we'll see how he does here today. I see where he's at. I don't want to make any predictions either way, but listen, that kid has done a great job for us, and he was going to obviously cover number 1 most of the day, and as he's done the last few games, just the primary receiver. So, but if he can be back, he'll be back. If not, then he's not. Then we have to go a different direction. So,
and the second question, Coach, you're a man who appreciates the history of the NFL and everything about it. But this Super Bowl, you're going to have 2 starting black quarterbacks, obviously Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. What is the significance of that to you, especially since you've had Donovan McNabb as well?
Yeah, well, listen, I think the biggest thing is they're really good, and I think that is a tribute to the kids. I mean, that's unique. It is unique. I don't ever look at it that way. I look at, I don't really care what color you are. You're a good player, which at that position takes a tremendous amount of time and effort. I can really appreciate that. And I've never been one that really looked at the color part of it. Where I grew up, we had everybody. Everybody was a part of the equation, and that's someday I hope that's the way it all works. And you as we go on, you'll never have to be asked a question like this again. I mean, I understand why you're asking it, Herbie, absolutely, but it's a tribute to the kids, though. I mean, both of them are phenomenal players, and I'm happy for both of them.
Hey, Andy, congratulations on last night, by the way.
Yeah.
You touched a little bit on this after the game last night, but we want to ask you a little more about your group of rookies. Did you feel like you've gotten more out of that group than maybe you thought you would when the season started? And Brad, I'll have a second question as well.
Yeah, I remember talking to the guys about Bill Walsh, and when he had that group of rookies in the secondary, the Ronnie Lott group, and they were all rookies, and they ended up going to the Super Bowl. And I mean, it seems like a long time ago that I mentioned that to the guys and to our coaches at least. And I mean, here we sit. So obviously there was a concern, but there was an optimism there too that it can be done. And then the kids, just their work ethic, they showed us this in training camp. They showed it all the way through the season. They weren't, if they got beat, they came back and fought back to, I mean, you look at Williams, I mean, the PIs that he had early that put us in a bad position. All of a sudden he comes up with an interception in the championship game with a deflection from Cook. I mean, it's crazy how those things work, but the kids stepped up. They didn't lose their confidence. David's done a great job with them. And real tribute to him. So I was optimistic, but you don't know how that journey is going to go. But here we sit, and they sure did a nice job.
Yeah. Okay. I asked this next question, understanding you still have another game to go here, so don't misunderstand that part of it. But put into perspective, if you could, what you guys have achieved this year, given you've got a quarterback on a big contract now, and you traded Tyreek Hill, and there's all these rookies you've been playing, particularly on defense, like we talked about. Can you put in perspective what kind of achievement maybe this was?
Yeah, so I would start with Brett Veach and the way that he and his guys have gone about putting this thing together for the coaches, giving the coaches an opportunity to coach good players. It includes everybody. I mean, it includes Mark. It includes Clark. I mean, they're all part of that, giving us the opportunity to do what Brett can do by bringing these guys in. So, but his process, the process that he goes through, you guys have gotten to know him now. I mean, the process that he goes through, he's relentless. He's committed. He's got a great eye for talent. He's fearless when it comes into trades and drafts and all those things. I mean, it's just, it's been fun for me to watch him grow. So.
Hey, Coach, appreciate the time here. I know you kind of touched on this yesterday, but wanted to get you again on it. There was a lot of trash talk between both teams, but specifically to the Cincinnati mayor. I know you've been coaching for a long time. A lot of weird stuff gets said. Have you ever seen anything like that? And how motivating do you think that specific part, the mayor of Cincinnati, was to getting your team ready to go?
Well, listen, everybody, they're excited. I mean, they were excited to have their team there. So everybody jumped in on it, and the mayor was part of it. And, hey, it's a tribute to him for being so excited to have this football team. But at the same time, you probably don't want that. I'm sure Zach probably didn't want that out there. And but listen, it happened. Our guys, obviously, Kelsey noticed it being from there. So he threw out a little rock on him, and that's what so obviously they heard it.
Hey, Coach, congratulations. You've done this a few times now in the past. I know that you like to really almost treat this week as the game plan week. Will that be the case again? And why do you feel like that strategy has worked for you in the past?
Yeah, Pete. So we will. And I think it's important. I think before you get down to Arizona with the distractions and the different events that go on, you'd like to at least have the base part in where you've got a good foundation of the game plan. And if you have to tweak it here or there, you can do that. But you really, while it's relatively calm here and normal, then let's get it done. I mean, it's really that simple.
Morning, I guess afternoon by this point, Andy. You're gonna be asked about Philadelphia 100 times probably in the next 2 weeks. I didn't realize that you'd actually won the last 6 matchups, 3 with Philadelphia and 3 with Kansas City, which is kind of odd. Do you like this, knowing that you can't pick who you're facing? Do you like the idea of playing Philadelphia? And does it make it harder or more difficult or more time consuming away from the field, knowing that you're going to be facing Philadelphia?
Yeah, I think when really cut to the chase on it, they're a really good football team. And so I think that's where the energy goes. Because really when it's kickoff, you're playing that team. I mean, it's the players that you're going against and the coaches. And so the uniform, all that, it's not that's not where your mind's at. Your mind's at making sure you have a solid game plan and that you come out and you can perform. I mean, that's to the best of our ability. And that's I think where the major focus goes. And you try to, it doesn't matter who you're playing. You try to blank out all the hype that goes with the game. It's pretty big game for everybody, you guys included. It's a big deal, man. I mean, it's the Super Bowl. So, but you try to blank that out and make sure that you're getting the game plan, what really matters together,
Hey, Andy, a couple things here real quick, but just having coached Jason and Travis, I mean, we can see their personalities a little bit on the podcast, but what stands out to them maybe that's similar and maybe what's different about those guys?
Yeah. So Travis is the little brother and I think Big Brother probably protected him so Travis could do some crazy things. And, he probably talked him from jumping off a ladder into the raked up leaves once or twice, so but listen, they're both at heart very competitive and compassionate. I think is the biggest thing. They care, and they care about people, and they care about their game, their trade, and their podcast. It looks like it's unbelievable. I mean, they've got a good mesh there and a good relationship between the two of them. I think Travis has grown up a lot. I think Jason came in probably more mature, big brother, and Travis was a little more immature, but has really grown and a good person, man.
Thanks, Andy. And then wanted to ask you about Chris Jones' game last night as well. You touched on it briefly in your opening statement, but just what kind of impact did you see when you rewatched the game that he had on the game?
Yeah, huge impact. He was relentless, and he did it against the run, and he did it against the pass, and just playing. I mean, he's done this all year. I mean, he's just played tremendous football all year.
And Brad, I'll have a follow-up. Coach, the decision to punt in the fourth quarter, so many different things that went into that, right? Like the last time you played Cincinnati, you punted, you didn't get the ball back. The receivers, I think at one time your three wideouts were Marcus Kemp, Jody Fortson, and Noah Gray, two tight ends slotted out. So you've got personnel issues. Like how much, and you've got to do it all in one play, right? In one shot clock. How many of those things are going through your head? How many of those things do you actually have a chance to kind of consume and go through when you make that decision to go ahead and punt the ball?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you go through that. I mean, you have to. And then you go off your gut feeling. I mean, you're right at that area where, some would say go for it. Some would say kick it. I thought our defense was playing well enough where we surely could punt the ball and with probably minimal seconds or time on the clock, get the ball back. So, but we've been able to do some good things with limited time. So you have that in the back of your mind. And as far as the players go, we trusted the guys that were in there. They did a marvelous job for us. So I'm proud of them and the coaches for at least having all these guys knowing the plays when they always don't get that amount of reps, especially at different positions there. So.
And I know you got a coach from I'm assuming, and not having never been a coach, but somewhat of an assumption of success for each guy, right? That each guy is going to be able to get it done. I asked this of Dave, when Sky Moore and when they're having the problems with the holds on the kicks. Is there ever a time that he's had to go to you and say, hey, the guy can't do it, whether it's his kicker or his returner or something like that, or Woody, I guess was my question. And he said, yeah, that's my job to do it. And then he kind of reflected on his own and said, but I've never had to do it. Have you ever had a moment, like, was there a time where you're like, whether it was Sky going back there and you mentioned he got it done, or, any other situation where it's like, I don't know if Tommy can get this, you've just checked off in your mind, the guy can't do it, or as a coach, do you always have to assume they're going to get it done?
No, that's a great question. There's a time and a place where you go through training camp and you watch the guys return these punts. Every day you watch them before practice, return these punts. And you go, man, this kid has a lot of talent. He just hasn't done it a lot. And then if there's failure mixed in with that, you hope you can take a step back to take 2 steps forward. And that's kind of where we were with Sky. We just felt like, listen, if he can just get back and maybe have some success doing other things as a receiver, that maybe we can come back to this and his confidence level will be up and we go. And so, that's what happened. And with this and with the injuries that took place, here he is and a clutch time and came up with a clutch play. That between that and Butker's kick, I mean, arguably 2 of the really redemption stories that you guys get into, and as coaches, we appreciate, so it was quite a deal to watch.
Hey, Andy, congratulations. And Brad, I'll have a follow-up too. Hey, Andy, one thing with the Eagles, I remember speaking with you and Clark a little bit about this once, that I think there's a sense of a mutual agreement almost at the end of your tenure there, and that you actually encouraged Jeff Lurie to say, look, we need to make a change. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit? And then I'll have the follow-up.
Yeah, so I think we both, listen, it was 14 years. So that's a long time to be someplace. And there were 14 great years. I mean, I loved every minute of it. It was Jeffrey Lurie is a phenomenal owner and did a great job for me, my family, everything. So, but it got to that point. They needed, I thought it would be good, and Jeffrey felt this way, that it'd be good for them and good for me. And I appreciated his feeling on that. And we left with a ton of respect for each other. I mean, I think he does a heck of a job. And Howie Roseman was also part of that. So he was involved. And I'm so happy for him. I don't think he gets near enough credit for what he's been able to do with that team. So, and replenishing. So I love Philadelphia, love the city. I've been blessed to be in 3 phenomenal places in the NFL, and I'm loving every minute in Kansas City.
And the follow-up, Andy. So when you came here, you were going to bring, I think this is right, David Culley with you. So you already had a receivers coach, which meant a tough talk with Nick Sirianni. But Nick has always referred to that as something that was important to him. Can you just tell us about that a little bit and how that went and what that was like for you?
When I came here, I was told Nick Sirianni is this guy is really a special coach, really, really a good football coach. Ted Cruz was his biggest fan at that time, and just said this guy is really, really good. And but I had David. David was my assistant head coach, and he'd been with me for 14 years, and so he was coming with me. And I had to make that determination to keep Nick or not. And I knew he, being as good as he was, the reputation he had, I knew he was going to get something. And so it's worked out great for him.
Hey, Coach, you touched on this a bit late last night, but I'm just curious what you thought of the crowd yesterday and how they helped you guys get the victory.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Matt, they were unbelievable. That crowd was loud. You could feel the energy. And then listen, for them to stick around afterwards, nobody left. It was crazy how many people were there. I mean, I just kind of took it in for a second, just looking around, and I mean, it was a packed house. And we love playing here. We appreciated the support. They do matter. I know other people use the 12th man thing, but when they crank it up, man, it's tough on these quarterbacks. And and the offensive line with the procedure penalty and so on. So it's again, it's a great tribute to our fans. The sea of red is something special.
That is head coach Andy Reid. Chiefs Kingdom really showed up. Yeah, you could even tell listening to Mitch in the radio broadcast. Ooh, boy, it was pumped. Coming up next, our list, key plays in the game. We'll get to that next. Topic today, key plays in the AFC title game. Number 4, Fulton.
For me, Chris Jones's end of half pressure on Joe Burrow that forced the incompletion, forced him to settle for 3, took 4 points off the board.
Number 4 for me, Jamar Chase, a jump ball. It's 4th and 6 at the KC 41. They don't get that.
Yeah.
Chiefs have the ball at the 41 and are up 7. That touchdown then made it 20-20. That's number 4.
No, that play was definitely just incredibly huge. Number 3 for me, Joshua Williams' deflected interception off the Brian Cook tip pass. Just changed a lot of vibes there late in that game on a pass that's usually completed.
Number 3 for me, Sky Moore's punt return of 29 yards to set up the score. They don't kick it if they don't get that punt return. They're not getting in field goal range. That wasn't going to happen. I think that changed everything. That's 30 yards.
That's huge. No, that play was monumental in the fact that truly, if he doesn't do that good of a return, I'm with you. I don't know if they have enough time and resources with everything that was going on to get into field goal range. Number 2 for me, Patrick Mahomes' scramble there on 3rd down to get them near field goal range. Then, of course, the offside penalty puts them in it. He had one run in him all game. He had one. He chose the absolute best time to burn it.
Number 2 for me, the Mahomes fumble. It's 1st and 10 at the Cincy 46. Chiefs can go up 2 scores. And he just lost it. That's when I thought the Chiefs are cursed. The Bengals are living a charmed life. They go down and score. Plus it was on that 4th and 6. That's what two of the top 4 plays to me happened right in that situation.
No, that's very important. Number 1 for me was, honestly, when I thought about it, pretty easy. It is Chris Jones' sack on 3rd and 8 that forced the Bengals in that final punt. He called game. As he has done so often all year, Chris Jones called game in the most important moment that the Bengals in all 3 matchups prior would always make a play.
My number one, Patrick Mahomes on one leg, same drive that he tweaked it on, steps up in the pocket, MVS on 3rd and 10 from the 19-yard line. They kick a field goal there if they don't convert this, and it's a touchdown. That's a touch. You want to hear? This is what makes this game so much more important than stupid officiating. We each had 4 plays, not one of them the same. That's 8 monumental plays in this game that changed everything, not the officials. The 2:06 start of the 3 o'clock hour here of Mic'd Up on this AFC title game Victory Monday edition of Mic'd Up. It's a very long title, but it's the right one. We'll talk with Jesse Newell to get his thoughts on all things Chiefs, as he was in the trenches, not literally in the game, but there in the locker room afterwards. And maybe he saw Creed Humphrey and Jerick McKinnon grab beers and grab them or steal them. Is it considered stealing?
Did they pay for the merchandise?
No.
Then that's stealing.
They're employees of the institution that is the Chiefs. But if you're like a parking attendant, you can't just go in there and take beers.
Yeah.
So because you have
If
to
there
pay
was
for
no-
those beers. Are those beers free? I don't know. I've never been
Yeah,
there.
listen, I'm not in the tax bracket that gets to experience that.
I'm not either.
So I don't know what the rules are down there. But unless there was some sort of financial compensation for the beers being taken,
what if they have a tab?
That would work, because then, like I said, if the beers are somehow financially compensated for, then it is not stealing.
What if Clark Hunt said, "Hey, those beers they're on me"?
That's not stealing. Clark Hunt paid for them.
Okay, all right.
It's the same as if like the workers are like, "Hey, have some of these," and someone else ended up paying. Like, as long as someone covered the expenses of the beer being taken.
Somebody did. It was probably a loss. They're probably just a loss.
Yeah, and that's fine. It is only stealing is if no one covered the expenses for that product. Then yes, Creed Humphrey and Jet McKinnon stole beer.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. Let's get to a discussion that really started, I'm going to say 5 minutes after the game, that really it took full go. Chris Jones mentioned it when he spoke to the media on Friday, when he ended it by saying, "See y'all at Burrowhead." You kind of got the vibe.
Like, they have been listening.
They know what's going on. Social media, players read their clippings. They're plugged in.
Also, elite time to really bring it up. Don't engage with it all week. Just kind of let it go. but throwing just a little bit of shade at the end to be like, no, we heard you. We just think we do not need to jaw back at you to feel good. We're just going to keep letting you go.
And then 5 minutes after, you've got Patrick Mahomes getting interviewed by Tracy Wolfson, and he's getting ready to talk about God. And then it really started to happen.
Oh, thank God, man.
Woo! Burrow had my ass. Woo! It's Mahomes' house.
I still can't.
I love Travis Kelce.
One, Patrick Mahomes is he wants to be liked, I think. He doesn't want to cause waves. He just wants to do his job, live his life.
He's a company man.
You know what I mean?
He's a company man.
He just, I don't know if I go company
no,
man.
No, he's a company man.
But
he understands he's the face of the Chiefs franchise, and therefore is going to do his best to represent the Chiefs well, because he knows every minute in public he is representing that team.
But I think it's not just the team. I just think that's who he is.
Yeah, no, I think so.
So that's why I don't think that's who he is, which therefore
his personality is a company man's personality. It's I just want to be, the guy that
he's not doing it to me for the Chiefs.
No, exactly.
He's doing it for himself.
And that's the point. It's not in the essence of it's just because of the Chiefs. It is for anyone.
Gotcha.
This is Mahomes wants to be the guy you can always. He's the good guy to make the face of your product, no matter what that product is.
And that's his personality.
Yeah, that's what I say. He's company man.
And so
then there's Travis Kelce.
Oh, thank God, man.
Woo! Burrow had my ass. Woo!
I'm making the t-shirts. I'm making the t-shirts. I need Burrow had my ass on some kind of product.
And then
that is amazing.
And then I don't know why they decided to let him have the mic, except for Jim Nance, or the producer in his ear, was like, yeah, we got to get Kelce on the mic.
I think at this point it is well known what Trav does with an open mic, and it's not bad enough to where you think you need to put the censors out.
Yeah.
So I definitely think producers are like, no, we have to put Travis Kelce on a hot mic. Do it. See what happens.
Hey, I got some wise words for that Cincinnati mayor. Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni.
Here's the thing, too. Travis Kelce went to Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
He went to the University of Cincinnati, the Bearcats.
He's from that area.
Like, for him to...
Hey, I got some wise words for that Cincinnati mayor. Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni.
Alrighty, now we're going to have this discussion again because this is a huge topic right now. When he did that live and they showed that on social media,
hilarious.
There were two reactions to it. One, hilarious. Two, you are classless. That's it. If you look up Travis Kelce on Twitter, you just type in Kelce on Twitter, and what pops up are a whole bunch of videos of Travis Kelce and him saying, like when Adam Schefter tweeted it out, okay? Travis Kelce, right? You've got here, jabroni is the coolest word we've ever had.
Shout out Dwayne Johnson.
Yep. Yeah, man, we get it. And then you've got classless. Let's see what else. Calm down, Adam. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see. The referees made the victory. Classless. You've got all sorts of this, classless stuff, right? Oh gosh, act, appropriate. That was a player after a game who won the biggest game of the year. When you literally have an elected official sat down with his PR team earlier in the week. This is the mayor of Cincinnati saying this.
Whereas Joseph Lee Burrow, who's 3-0 against Mahomes, has been asked by officials to take a paternity test confirming whether or not he's his father.
You literally, that's That's the quote people need to be talking about. But it's not, because most people don't know that quote existed. But guess what they do know? They do know that 50 million people at the end of that game who watched that, I don't know the exact number, I'm guessing it's going to be around 50 million, because it's normally goes Super Bowl, title game, title game. And they see Travis Kelce go to the mayor of Cincinnati. Shut your mouth, you jabroni. They look at that and go, oh my, an elected official whose job is to literally shut your mouth.
Yeah, it's to be quiet, run your city.
And do what you're supposed to do. Yet Travis Kelce's the one who's classless. No, that's not how it works. I don't know how many times I have to say this, and I know people out there in Radioland who are listening right now. I am very pro trash talk. I think trash talk is a part of the game, okay? Yeah. Growing up in high school, in college, pros, it is part of the game. Sometimes it's gamesmanship. There are times where Tiger Woods used it more than anybody. Intimidation, that's part of trash talk. If you are going to talk the trash and you are going to do this.
Whereas Joseph Lee Burrow, who's 3-0 against Mahomes, has been asked by officials to take a paternity.
You're going to go that route. You are going to say here, Mike Hilton, starting corner of the Bengals, you are going to say on the field in a divisional game into a camera and say, we'll see you all at Burrowhead next week. If you're going to say that, and then you've got Joe Burrow walking in with a pink pants, a pink hood, and then a shirt that says, I'm sorry. And then you've got guys who are saying, no, they got to play us. And then you got Joe Burrow saying, I'm him. You're talking smack. That's fine. I got no problem with that. But then you don't back it up. You have to take that L. Every little thing. Eli Apple and your mom who's saying, hey, when Stephon Diggs, tweeted out and Eli Apple says Cancun on 3, you're talking smack. That's fine. I got no problem with that. But you better back it up. And if you don't, then don't come back at me with the officials and all this kind of stuff. Now, Burrow didn't say any of that.
Yeah, to Joe Burrow's credit,
okay,
for anything Joe Burrow has ever said in his career, he has never immediately followed it up with excuses or Joe Burrow, if anything is shown, he is willing to dish out his talk, and Joe Burrow is willing to take it.
Now,
Burrow's willing to take it.
You got a hand. Hey,
cannot
Joe,
say that about all the other Bengals.
And all the Joe Burrow walking in with a pink shirt and says, I'm
That's
sorry
just
on
Joe.
all that. Joe, you got to eat that too.
Yeah,
all
and
right?
Joe will.
That's what I want to make very clear. That's when Justin Reed started talking smack against the Cincinnati Bengals during the regular season, and he got absolutely worked.
Yeah, he had a bad day.
And he came back and said, I still played well. No, man, you got to shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Okay? You got to hold the L. You got to deal with the consequences because you cannot talk smack when you are getting destroyed. That is not how it works. You have got to understand that these are the rules. These are the rules. I don't make them. You just have to follow them. All right?
And more importantly, as we've always said on the show as well, and the biggest thing for me is this, it doesn't come down to talking while you're down in a game. I've always kind of believed just shouldn't be done because scoreboard. But the biggest thing for me when it comes to I'm with you. I'm very pro try. We're both pro taunting shouldn't exist in the NFL. The taunting penalty shouldn't exist. Like Andrew Wiley called for taunting because he ran by a guy with his arms out and said something to Sam Hubbard. Was funny.
He did the Tony Saragusa like that.
Taunting penalties should not exist. As I've always said, the only time you should think about flagging a play for taunting is if it incites violence. Like Chris Jones way back in week whatever against the Colts. He said something, the referee heard something that just something like that. The referee heard something that, made his sensitive little ears bleed. Matt Ryan, who was probably the subject of the taunt, did nothing. If the subject of the taunt doesn't care or is not incited enough to move to like he wants to try and start a fight, then don't throw the flag.
No.
Like with Wiley's thing, I know Sam Hubbard looked to the ref and did the little hand thing of like, what are you going to do? If I'm that ref, I say, go play better, Sam. Like, so what? He basically went at you. Who cares? But that's the biggest thing is the Bengals spent a lot of time talking, and their fans did a lot of talking because the internet is both a beautiful and a terrible place.
Well, it's a cesspool, to be honest with you.
It truly is. And this is where it becomes even worse because it gives people an outlet to do all the talk. But I've never had a problem with people wanting to talk. The Mike Hilton and Eli Apple guys saying Burrowhead and the guys, be like, they got to come play us and, taking shots at the Bills, telling them to have fun in Cabo, all that. I'm cool with it. I really am. But you got to be able to take it. And
Andy Reid even brings that up. This is what Andy
when Big Red talks about it, they were listening.
Here's Andy Reid.
Yeah, listen, our guys did a great job of not going that direction. Their mayor said it all, and so I'm glad our mayor just did what he did, and some people heard it.
Yeah, some people heard it. Patrick, this is what's funny about when Patrick Mahomes was asked about the trash talk. It's to the point where he kind of just does Mahomes chuckle.
Yeah, I mean, you got Burrowhead. They beat us last time. They were talking about we got to play them. There was a lot of stuff. I mean, the mayor came at me, man. I understand he's the mayor of Cincinnati, so he has to think about something. But it's something that you just got to play the football game and then let your play do the talking.
And Mahomes at the beginning of the game. If you don't think these dudes are built different, okay? Michael Jordan, and I understand Michael Jordan's a complete outlier, but maybe not to the point of most. But Michael Jordan, this is the one thing that I remember from most on The Last Dance is Michael Jordan basically looked at Dan Marley and said, my GM thinks you're good, and I got to prove him you suck. What? It's the AFC title game. You have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. You don't need any other motivation. You don't. But when you start getting it personal about your teammate, that's why Travis Kelce ran in there and said, Burrowhead my ass, right? And then you've got guys like Frank Clark. When you hear that, they're built different. It's their ego. All these dudes have egos.
Yeah.
And trash talk basically goes to the ego. And then Frank Clark. Now, you could put Frank Clark on a live mic because we had to edit this as well. But Frank Clark after the game.
We did it. You know what I mean? We had to come back out here. Last year this time, same team sent us home, man. Very disappointing season. I don't know who the hell they think they was calling this Burrowhead. I don't know who the hell they thought they was talking about. They was going to finish us off. They'll take their bum ass back to Cincinnati. Man, they came to Cheesecake and got their ass stomped off. I don't know what number one did. I told him to holler at me.
That's part of it. That does motivate you. Mahomes even said so.
Yeah, I think guys were probably the most pumped up I'd seen them going into a football game. A lot of trash talk coming from a lot of different places. I think no one picked us to win. If so, it was like 5% of people. And we think we've built up enough respect to have a chance to go out and win every game. So whenever you feel like you're the underdog, when you're playing at Arrowhead Stadium, it gets guys ready to go.
Chris Jones is crying because of the anthem. He's so intense and hyped up and emotional. Okay. At first, when I heard that clip, I was like, oh, nobody picked him. I was like, all right, calm down, Pat. Because I don't watch pregame anymore.
Yeah.
When you got two kids, you don't watch pregame. You just watch the game. But then I started to see all of the screenshots.
Mm-hmm.
And they really did.
They
really were not picked to win.
This was not a manufactured. No, everyone. This is not like the Patriots many years ago when Julian Edelman was like, ain't no one ever believe in us. And it's like, dude, you're easily the favorite. Like, shut the hell up. What are you talking about? This was a true. No, a good chunk of the national media was picking Cincinnati. And the conversation was because the Chiefs hadn't done it yet. The Bengals had their number.
And I don't know if it was Mahomes' ankle as well, but
and
either
that's
way.
factor too. Pat can't move and all this. And I'm like, here's my kind of my final thought on this whole thing. trash talk exists in sports, and it's good for sports because it's entertaining. And guys showing emotion is good for sports. Guys not being robots is good for sports. We should encourage them to show emotion. It is dangerous to give certain players bulletin board material. It is not all of them. This is not all created equal. Mahomes has gotten a lot of Jordan comparisons for other parts of how great he's been. Mahomes and Jordan have one very, very specific thing in common. They will not, in the moment, outwardly tell you that they took it personally. But if you come at them, they internalize all that.
The mayor even came at me.
Mahomes is never in the moment going to tell you anything gets to it. He's just going to say, it's whatever. I don't hear it. Pat is, for a fact that, the mayor thing specifically, he saw that and immediately went, okay. I was like, all right, I guess I gotta go shut you up.
I can't believe that you've got actual humans with an opinion think what Travis Kelce did was classless and
no, it was entertaining.
The mayor!
Yeah.
He has nothing to do with it. Why is he talking?
Yeah.
Those are the people that bother me. We're going to talk with Jesse Newell coming up. Starts the 2:00 hour. mic'd up on this AFC title game Victory Monday edition. Jake LeBon along with Fulton Caster with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Got a lot to get to this hour. We'll get to a little overreaction, proper reaction coming up. We'll discuss why the Kansas City Chiefs are victorious today. And we'll get to a few more tidbits with some news this afternoon. As always, hit us up on our Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. Outside of Topeka, 785-272-9429. Very simple, very easy. You can check us out on YouTube. Go to our website, 580wew.com. That's 580wew.com. Check us out as well. YouTube, go to Sports on 580. We got a lot to get to. Right now, though, we're going to be joined by friend of the show, Jesse Newell. You need to follow Jesse on the social medias at Jesse Newell from the Kansas City Star. He covers the Chiefs beat. Jesse, what time did you go to bed last night?
Well, about 4. I got home about 3:45. You know, a little bit of adrenaline left and caffeine, so rolled fun a little bit. But up and at 'em, ready. Next 2 weeks are gonna be crazy, and yeah, Chiefs, pretty dramatic victory and pretty crazy. They're back to the promised land already again.
All right, is this game gonna be remembered as the ankle game, the trash talk game, or the Chris Jones game?
Well, all three of those are huge storylines. I think it's the ankle game, though. You know, what are we going to be talking about in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years? It's as much as he might want it to be, it's probably not going to be the Cincinnati mayor. And Chris Jones had an amazing game and obviously added to his legacy with the Chiefs. But, you know, the story is the story and the guy is the guy. And we talked all week. That's why every practice I went out to, you know, you're holding your iPhone up to try to get whatever jogging or stretching or running or whatever it was that Patrick Mahomes was doing, because, you know, this is a once in a lifetime type of talent quarterback superstar. And he had sort of, I mean, we're old enough, Jake, to know this. I mean, how much we talked about the Michael Jordan flu game where we knew he wasn't at his best. He came out, he performed, he lifted his team. And that was part of what made him who he was. Patrick Mahomes had that type of performance yesterday. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't without mistakes. But you look at how many guys the Chiefs were down and how they're rotating guys in, and certain plays where he's literally hobbling to the sideline. And, you know, however many years from now, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, what we're going to remember most is how Patrick Mahomes performed in this particular game when things were going against him and his body was going against him. So I think that's the legacy of this game. Again, the others are fun storylines, and obviously Chris Jones needed to get a postseason sack on his ledger with all the other things he's done in the regular season. But this game was all about Mahomes. And when we talk about this, you know, many, many years from now, that's the first thing we're going to be bringing up.
Well, hey, it's your fault, Jesse, that you keep bringing up that Jones hasn't gotten a sack. You know, he blamed all of you. Were you part of that group there at the podium, or were you in the locker room? I need to know this because I need to know where to place this blame.
Yeah, no, I was there with him, and you know, this is what's fun because he can say what he wants to. I mean, it absolutely bugged him. It absolutely was something on his mind. Sure. It was absolutely way more than a media thing, even if he plays it off as something different. So, listen, I mean, we talk about this. Sam McDowell, my colleague, wrote about it at the Kansas City Star in his column. It's great. Go check it out. You know, he talks about all the talk in the locker room that the Chiefs had at that game, and a lot of them went back to the trash talk that Cincinnati had before the game that you mentioned. But, you know, I wrote about Sky Moore, and literally you're thinking fourth quarter tie game, AFC Championship game, and the only guy the Chiefs can put back there to catch a punt, Sky Moore, and then he returns it for 29 yards, the longest punt return of the season, puts them in field goal range. I mean, the whole day, this is why we watch sports. I mean, the drama that was set up throughout the course of this season to have guys come through in the biggest moments. I mean, this read like a storybook. When you talk about all these people, I mean, Joshua Williams got burned in the first game against Cincinnati, and he puts out like 6 tweets a year, but the one after that game was, got to do better, got to get back to it. He gets an interception against Cincinnati. I mean, you talk about Harrison Butker, struggled throughout the entire regular season. He nails another one to win in the playoffs, and is just perfect. But we talk about Chris Jones. I mean, one of my first assignments on the beat is out there in the summer covering, OTAs, it's the middle of summer, guys are just barely training, all that sort of stuff. Chris Jones gets a pretty innocuous question, and unprompted says, my whole off-season motivation is that Cincinnati Bengals game. I had Joe Burrow in my grasp twice and didn't bring him down for a sack. If I bring him down for the sack, the Chiefs are probably in the Super Bowl. So I'm just telling you guys right now, that's my motivation for the whole season. His motivation for the whole season ends up, he gets to the AFC Championship game, he plays the same team in the same place, has the same opportunity at the end of the game to potentially help his team win, and he gets a sack in the biggest moment of the biggest game. I mean, the storylines on this, like it's a sports writer's dream, but it just is amazing. I mean, the word is redemption. There's so many stories of that, but perhaps none more so than Chris Jones, who 7 months ago, out of nowhere, says the Cincinnati Bengals game is my singular focus, the reason that I am motivated this year to be a better player. And then when he gets to play them again in the AFC Championship game in a similar situation, he comes through. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing to have all these sorts of things come full circle before the Chiefs made the Super Bowl in this particular instance.
And he just didn't come. He had his best game ever as a Kansas City Chief. I mean, he was, and this is including Patrick Mahomes. He was the best player on the field. No, he was unstoppable, like just unstoppable. I saw your tweet, Jesse, at the end of the half, and you go, look at this play from Chris Jones. Goes right through a double team, forces Burrow to throw it early. It's incomplete, saves 4 points. Like that one just, and that goes back to the whole, well, he doesn't have a sack. Is he impacting the game? Like that was the most dominant performance that I've seen since Aaron Donald in the Super Bowl. The only time that the Bengals lost the game in the playoffs last 2 years is because somebody was so dominant in the game, like Aaron Donald. Chris Jones was yesterday. Like I that's one thing that it'll go down as the ankle game, but I think the real ones will know that was Chris Jones.
Yeah, it was, and that one at the end of the half saved him 4 points because that play is potentially go for a touchdown, and it reminds me of some of these hypotheticals you guys used to all get into the radio. Would you rather face whatever it is, 50 elephant-sized mice or 50 mice-sized elephants, that sort of thing. Like Chris Jones didn't just take on a double team that last pass play of the first half. He took on one guy and then another guy. So like he had one guy waiting for him and then got by him and then had another guy waiting for him. After it wasn't like he split two. He beat one, got to the next one, and then beat him and then got to the quarterback. I mean, it was like a staggered dominoes for him, and he still beat both of them and got immediate pressure. So no, I'm with you. I mean, it was. And so many times I just think, it's tough to do this in sports. I mean, he put all of his eggs in one basket. I mean, he said everything before the game. He did we'll see you guys at Burrowhead Stadium. He was kind of jabbering back towards Cincinnati stuff. He said in May that his one singular focus was getting back to the AFC Championship game and finishing the job potentially against Joe Burrow, and then he gets to face Joe Burrow. I mean, how many times does this happen where you've seen athletes, they put all this pressure on themselves to perform, and it's really tough to perform. Like, it's really tough to go out there and then back up your word. And yet, like you said, Chris Jones, I can't think of a better game he's had. And not only that, he just has a flair for coming through in the clutch. And that play at the end of the first half and the last pass play that the Bengals got in the second half ended up being two of the biggest plays of the game, and both of them were wrecked because Chris Jones was just way, way better than anybody else on the Cincinnati offensive line.
We're talking with Jesse Newell, covers the Kansas City Chiefs for the Kansas City Star. You need to follow him on Twitter. Jesse's terrific, at Jesse Newell. And you mentioned Chris Jones, and the one time he sacked Joe Burrow, he laid him on the ground softer than sometimes I lay my son down for bed, which was hilarious because he got that one sack earlier this year that was roughing the passer. I thought that was pretty good. But when it comes to the biggest plays of the game, that was our list today. Everyone loves a good old list. What was your two big plays? Fulton had 4 and I had 4, and none of ours overlapped. That's how I think wild this game was, where normally you have at least 1 or 2 plays that are going to overlap from people's perspectives. What were some of the big plays in your mind?
Yeah, so well, I mean, obviously, I think the Sky Moore punt return goes way up there just to be able to do that. We mentioned the Chris Jones sack and then play at the end of the first. I mean, and we're already getting to 3, and I'm not even thinking about this. When we talk about Mahomes' legacy, the MVS touchdown is going to be one that brought up. because of the scramble ability he had and being able to find MVS in the end zone. Valdez-Scantling said after the game that he was the fourth read on that play. So, Mahomes, one ankle, scrambling up in the pocket, finding his fourth read, just totally normal stuff that you see every day. I would put way up there that 4th and 1, not only the play call in the first half, but the actual execution of it. But Andy Reid has, he's been as conservative gets. We saw that at that punt in the fourth quarter as well. But he goes for it on that 4th and 1, and Mahomes has Juju out in the flat open for the first down, and for some reason just said, nah, screw it, I'm going for the touchdown. And that's the chemistry he and Kelsey have to be able to hit that. It was like a corner route where they basically both just stopped. Kelsey stopped the route, came back to the ball, and Mahomes just saw him and tossed it to him to get a touchdown on that play. So, listen, we're already ending up with that 5 or 6 plays. Probably the most impactful play of the entire game, if you look at it as a whole. And this is what made it close. It started to remind me of this year's previous Cincinnati game, which was the Chiefs were playing pretty well. You felt like they had it in control, and then they just had this uncharacteristic mistake from one of their best players. And in the first game, that was a Travis Kelce fumble. In this game, it was that Patrick Mahomes slip up. Guys, he hadn't lost a fumble all year. Patrick Mahomes had lost 0 fumbles all year, and he loses one when the Chiefs are up 20-13 driving in Bengals territory. They score field goal or touchdown there, and Cincinnati gets it back with 11 or 12 minutes left, and you got to pin your ears back if you're the pass rush. I mean, that game might turn out a lot differently than it does with that happening. Kind of a weird side note with that. I'm interested to see if we can get Patrick Mahomes the next couple weeks just to ask him about this as a side note. But I talked with Tommy Townsend last week in the locker room, and he talked a little bit about how there's a little bit more paint that goes on the field this time of year. They try to make it look really pretty for TV. You go back to that snap, the Chiefs were snapping it directly from the arrowhead at midfield. And Tommy Townsend told me he wore gloves last week a little bit because when the ball gets damp, the paint gets on it sometimes and it makes the ball a little bit oily. And so, again, we just haven't seen this from Patrick Mahomes, but the fact that the ball was on the arrowhead at midfield and snapped directly to him and he lost it, it does make me wonder. And again, I'd love to ask him just if that arrowhead paint that they try to make this field look pretty, they might try to make it pop on television. If you put a little bit extra oomph on there and all of a sudden you get this ball slipping out of his hand that potentially doesn't slip out of his hand in any other game this season. So that was something interesting. But we add all those up, and that's probably a 7 already. Harrison Butker, obviously, he makes the field goal, 45-yarder is up there. So it was, it's crazy to think about. The Bengals never led this game, but there was a whole lot of game pressure and a whole lot of anxious moments for Chiefs fans out there watching this. But ended up a really good game. And like I said, the bottom line was just all the storylines that got completed. It's almost crazy the Chiefs have to play one more game because it felt like all these narratives you would wrap up in a book in the last chapter were wrapped up in this particular game. So now we'll see how they fare against the Eagles. But you're right. There was about 8 to 10 of those game-changing plays you can think of right off the top of your head, and that's what made this game so captivating.
The conditions, the wind was a factor in this one. You could tell because the first field goal that Butker kicked going at least to the right side of the TV, which would be the south end zone. Boy, that thing hooked and it did a lot of funny stuff. And that's why I think. Do you think if this were in the early September, there's not a lot of wind, it's not cold, that Andy Reid kicks a 57-yarder there with 2 minutes to go, or do you think he punts it?
Yeah, absolutely. I know Jay Feely was talking about it on the CBS broadcast, but they weren't stretching their field goal units more than about 50 to 52 yards before the game in either direction. That was even with the wind. And so I honestly think, the wind wasn't blowing one direction, but I just think when it's that cold, the ball is just hard as a rock. You just don't get it. And we know Butker has one of the best legs in the NFL. And you saw it too on the kickoffs. I mean, you talked about going toward the right of your television screen, like the opening kickoff that Butker had. I mean, that thing was struggling to get to the 10, and we know he booms them through the end zone on most days. So the cold was definitely the wind. You're right; it was whipping all over the place, and it did move the football. But when it came to field goal distance, it was definitely the cold weather. And I can tell you, Jake. I mean, I was not out there very much in the elements, but it was cold. It was a cold night in Arrowhead, and with that wind coming out of the north, it did not feel that great out there. So credit to those fans who remained loud, and for all the players for sticking things out. I know it's the AFC Championship game; you're gonna leave it on the line, but those were not easy conditions to keep your focus and to keep everything up. And obviously, the Chiefs did that, and were able to get the Super Bowl.
We're talking about Jesse Newell of the Kansas City Star, covers the Kansas City Chiefs. And when you look at the guys who were out in this game, it's remarkable that the Chiefs were able to kind of hold things off. I know there wasn't a whole lot of discussion from Andy Reid, but do we have kind of any idea if Tony with the ankle, what was McColl's injury? He got hit in the back. Was it still that pelvis injury? Is Juju, do you think, going to be okay? And just needs a concussion. Do we have any idea on some of these injuries?
Yeah, so Reed talked to us briefly earlier today on a Zoom call. He didn't have any injury updates just because, those guys are probably still sleeping and not required to be into the facility just yet. But he was hopeful. It was not specifically about L'Jarius. He was hopeful for it, but again, it's a concussion. So, we know how those things work. You got to get cleared out of protocol. You're hopefully can be back in 2 weeks, but nothing as of yet. There's other guys, a lot of them, I think you're encouraged because of the type of injuries they are. Like, I saw Juju Smith-Schuster walk up the tunnel after the game toward the locker room, and he was limping pretty noticeably. But again, it's an ankle. Do you think his ankle is worse than Patrick Mahomes? I know he has to do more movement, but, in 2 weeks, you probably are optimistic that potentially he can get back in there. Kadarius Toney was an ankle, so same sort of thing. You would think with a couple weeks of treatment, unless it's something really serious, or a high ankle sprain, that, you would like his chances. Again, this is me speculating as a doctor, but McCall Hardman looks like he's done. He worked so hard to get back to this game, and they held him out for so long, and then he was on the field, and whatever he re-injured, it looked like it was pretty painful. So I'd be pretty shocked if he's back. But then again, this is sort of part of the storyline, right? He came through on some huge plays when the Chiefs did not have other receivers in there, and basically put his body on the line to get ready and back out there and propelled them in a game that they had to win to get to the Super Bowl. So I would be most doubtful on him. Willie Gay had a shoulder injury. We haven't had an update on that one yet, but that's another one that's pretty big. It is just remarkable. Marcus Kemp was not active last week. He played 10 snaps on offense this entire season, had 22 snaps yesterday on offense for the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. So that lets you know how far down the list they were. Not to mention, as I wrote today, Ty Moore went into the week as the fourth string punt returner, and he returned punts in the AFC Championship game in the second half for the Chiefs because Justin Watson was out, Kadarius Toney went out, McCall Hardman went out. So it's just a crazy set of circumstances for the Chiefs to be able to grind through. It's pretty spectacular for everyone to step up in the roles that they had to.
Alrighty, my two for the road. Last two questions I've got for you, Jesse. Number one, did you see Creed Humphrey bring in the 2 12-packs of Michelob Ultra, or did you see Jerick McKinnon bring in the beer from the bar that is near the locker room?
I did not. So actually, I was outside the locker room when this happened, and that bar is right across from the locker room.
Yes.
So I heard a big cheer from the fans. So I knew some players had done something, but checked out the video later. The other thing was, again, this is from being in the locker room. There was a moment when we were in there talking to some guys, and the offensive linemen strangely called all of each other into sort of the shower area all together. So maybe if I'm putting two and two pieces together, they were having a nice little Michelob Ultra party or something in there with the drinks they just gathered. But again, that's the sort of investigative journalism you're not going to get anywhere else.
And that's why I'm wondering, did they pay? Do they get billed? Does this just go as a, normally you just can't walk in there and grab beer, because those beers cost money. So we're wondering, does Clark Hunt, do they have a tab? Also, how many beers do you think Creed Humphrey could drink in one social setting? I'm going with
as many as he.
I'm going with 30.
As many as he wants. Yeah, as many as he wants. Yeah, well, whatever he can grab. I'd put that on Clark Hunt's tab.
Okay.
I think that based off of yesterday, he's got it in the budget to be able to. Super Bowl appearances are good for NFL owners. That's a profitable situation. I think he'll be okay with Creed, taking out a few Michelob Ultras.
Yeah, Creed Humphrey, all 6 foot, 6, 340 pounds, right next to Jerick McKinnon, both grabbing beer. I hope they just pounded beers together. That would be fantastic. And lastly, final one, initial thoughts, Chiefs Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, should be a great one. Just again, when we're talking about sports writer, making sports writers happy in the storyline, I mean, this is so much better than Chiefs 49ers and would have been a rematch. I mean, two good teams, but this is just so different. You know, the Kelsey Bowl, the Andy Reid Bowl. Maybe somebody will call up LaShawn McCoy and see what he thinks. But two really good teams, the 2-1 seeds, the two best teams from each conference, as they proved throughout the course of the season. So this will be really great. I think the only reservation I have about the Chiefs right now, listen, when I know there's a week between or 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, is just that we saw this last year when they played that super emotional, tough game against the Bills. The next week it was more difficult to face the Bengals. And it kind of seems like human nature. Like I told you earlier, like it feels like they accomplished something already to be able to get to this point and grind out to this victory, whereas the Eagles have sort of flown by. You know what I mean? They've kind of had it easy to get to this point through their playoff road. So the only concern I have is, the health of the Chiefs and kind of the grind to get through to get this. But as you saw, I mean, sportsbooks have it about us an even line. So it should be a great Super Bowl, and it should be a great cap to this season, which has been pretty interesting already.
Well, I don't know if you have time. A lot of golf courses down there, Jesse. Bring your golf clubs just in case. And it should be a fun one down in Phoenix. And hopefully you can sit back and enjoy a Michelob Ultra yourself.
I will try to find them down there. I'm sure they're around there too. So, I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll see what goes on here. The Chiefs back in the Super Bowl 3 out of 4 years. It's a pretty amazing thing. And I'm sure Chiefs fans are enjoying this. Might not ever see it again in your lifetime.
Jesse, we appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.
Jesse Newell. Look at that. Jesse last year on the beat with the Jayhawks. They win it all. Now he comes here. Chiefs go to the Super Bowl. Jesse Newell? Good luck charm?
Justin, last time
people are asking.
Last time Jesse and I chatted, we discussed this, that KU football decided to get good the moment Jesse left.
Jesse, bad luck charm for football in college?
I
Good
don't
luck
know
charm?
how to word this because, Jesse's last, run with KU basketball, they win a championship. His first year with the Chiefs, they have a shot to get one. But then also he leaves in KU football, all of a sudden gets good. I don't know where Jesse's powers begin and end. Because they don't seem consistent. But it's true. All the Chiefs needed to beat the Bengals was just put Jesse Newell on the beat if they wanted to beat him in the playoffs. That's all they had to do.
Pretty simple to me.
It seems simple. Pretty easy.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Coming up next, overreaction, proper reaction here on Mic'd Up. Little overreaction, proper reaction. I'll start things off. Overreaction. Kyle Shanahan still can't win the big one.
So here's what I'll say. I have to frame it this very specific way. It is the proper reaction that Kyle Shanahan still can't win the big one. And it has no bearing on the game he just lost. Like, him losing the NFC title game against Philly does not have an impact on the fact he can't win important games. Like, the other things he's done is why he can't.
He didn't challenge a play that would have easily been overturned on fourth down. That would have cost them 7 points.
And I love that when asked afterwards, Shanahan goes, well, the replay they showed us in the stadium didn't show the same clear angle.
He didn't have a replay guy then.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Challenges are interesting in the fact that to get your third, you have to win 2. But I'm just of the overall belief. You got 2 challenges, that means you got 1 challenge per half. And more importantly, those first half timeouts are not as valuable as those second half timeouts.
Correct.
That is a big moment in the game, a big moment to set the tone. And there's another thing, and I've discussed this mainly with different plays, but I don't think enough coaches think this way. The body language of players and how they react give you an answer to questions you may not know the answer to. Like, I always make the comment on, like, iffy pass interference calls or watch the receiver. Receivers will complain about everything. If a receiver ain't complaining, there was no PI in the building, because they will complain about everything. Everything. So if they ain't complaining, it probably wasn't PI, because they'll complain if they even think for a minute they maybe got it. But Devontae Smith, after that play, is sprinting the ball around, sprinting to his guys saying, we got to snap. We got, like, imploring them, snap the dang ball. If I'm a coach and I see that and it's first half, my red flag's coming out right there. I don't need to look at him on there. I'm throwing it right there. Because what Devontae Smith is telling me by him acting like that, he doesn't think he caught that ball.
No, he didn't. It wasn't even close.
He doesn't think he caught that ball. If the receiver doesn't think he caught it, why are you not challenging it? Because you know who's going to have kind of usually the best? Because also, receivers, another thing about them and players in general, but receivers, I'm just on you for a minute. They think they catch everything. They're going to go, oh, I got that. I got it. We're good. Just like defenders will be like, oh, we did, like, question will be like, oh, we didn't catch, like, if the receiver who knows whether he caught it or not, probably better than anyone, is acting like he's like, I'm not sure, throw the flag. Like,
Kyle Shanahan has been in a lot of title games.
He has. And listen, I've been on your train that you kind of started, and other guys, I've jumped onto it. Like, Kyle Shanahan's one of the most overrated coaches in the NFL.
Great.
He is a great play designer.
Yes. Yeah.
He is a fantastic play designer. He should not be leading a team.
Yeah, he's incredible as the
put him as your offensive coordinator. You'll be fine.
Awesome. Well,
do not let him run your team.
I think he's okay running the team. I think what happens is that the in-game situations turns into a nightmare.
Yeah,
an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, but no, I think like the game yesterday has no impact on Kyle Shanahan's ability to win big games, because no coach is going to win that game. You were out of quarterbacks. Like, you ran out of quarterbacks. In the third quarter, you couldn't throw the ball.
Hey, Joe Rogan, you got any of them quarterbacks?
Like, he couldn't throw the ball because the quarterback he had to use has a bad elbow that might require Tommy John. And so he couldn't throw the ball more than 5 yards. Like, at that point, I can't put this loss on anything Kyle Shanahan did. The first half and some of those decisions when he had his healthy stuff going on, I'll put that on him. But the second half was just Kyle Shanahan ran out of quarterbacks. Now, do I think they could have gotten real buck wild then and tried something different with their running game to try and keep it close? I think they could have. Instead of having one of the 11 players on the field be just a cone, which is what Brock Purdy was. Like, the Eagles did not have to account for him in anything. Like, seeing him there and what he was doing, the Eagles just like, okay, we're just going to ignore that he exists. Whereas, the Wildcat is gimmicky and fairly stupid. At least if you don't have Purdy on the field and you're having Juszczyk or McCaffrey running the show, you have to account for all the skill players.
But the reason why they did not do it, and I'm going to tell everybody the reason why they did not do that. They did not practice it.
Oh, I agree. No, I'm with you.
And if you don't practice it, you can't run it.
No, I agree. I'm 100%. But to the overall question, back to the point, no bearing on it, but yeah, he can't win big games because I don't think he has what it takes to be a head coach. And if the Niners want to actually win something, I think they need to move on. Because he's just never going to. He's never going to get you there. He can't make the right decisions. He can't.
They just need a game.
He can do other things right.
Manager.
Yeah, it is someone to fix that man, to not let that man's brain be important.
All right.
But we got Sunflower Showdown coming up tomorrow. We'll break down that more coming up tomorrow.
Okay.
But leading it off, overreaction, proper reaction. This is the biggest game of the year for K-State, and if they lose, they can kiss their conference title hopes goodbye.
No, overreaction. No. A lot of game left. A lot of game left.
But they'll also be tied with KU for first. If KU wins.
Nah, overreaction. We got still half games left.
That's true.
We got half games left. Not even close.
No, a lot of ball up, but this is a big one. This is a big one.
No, it's a big one, but it's not.
It's a very big one.
No. Overreaction, proper reaction. The NFL has an officiating problem.
Proper reaction if we've been on this for years at this point.
Okay.
Like, no, the NFL is an officiating problem because there's no transparency in the officiating.
All right. I understand that. All right, what else you got?
Like, it's very, very, very frustrating. Overreaction, proper reaction. This will shape up to be the best Super Bowl we've had in nearly a decade.
Overreaction. That you're hoping for speculation there. I mean, people forget. I mean, we've had some awesome Super Bowls recently. Last year's Super Bowl was awesome. It really was. It came down to the very end. I mean,
it did.
You had Aaron Donald had to sack Joe Burrow at the end to win. Then you go back 2 years ago. The Chiefs were down by 10 points with 8 minutes to go, and they won the game.
No, there have been plenty of good ones recently, but the overall point, though, is this is one of the few times we've ever gotten a 1 versus 1, where the two best teams are here. Like, this is not to discount. We've had some bangers in the last decade. Yeah. We haven't had the two undisputed best teams in the league, though, duking it out.
I will say this. If the Chiefs players that are going to play are healthy, mainly Snead, Tony, MVS, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the players who we
if
think
the Chiefs are at full strength.
Yeah, or even close.
Yeah.
They are the two best rosters. Because, the Bengals don't have, the best overall talent, where the Chiefs have dudes. Remember, the Bengals didn't have an all-pro. Chiefs have 4. The Bills, without Von Miller, that defense completely changed. The 49ers, well, we saw about the 49ers, their quarterback. Cowboys got issues. But these are the two best rosters.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
And that's my overall point on this being maybe one of the best ones we've had in a while. Because we have had some bangers. And there were some unexpected ones because different things happened. Every team showed up. But these are two such high-level teams. Like, I think this is going to be just a show.
What's funny, we'll get into this later on this week or later on next week. But just off the top of my head right now, if you had to rank the players, and we'll do this, top 10, the top 10 players in this Super Bowl, the Chiefs go 1, 2, 3.
They're at least going 1 and 2. 3 is when I probably start having some more. I might, yeah. Because I saw Reddick's done some amazing things this year, but he ain't Chris Jones.
That's interesting, right?
They might have the 3 best players in this game.
Yeah.
Quarterback is Pat.
Yep.
Hands down, best player in this game is Pat. I mean, Travis Kelce and the amazing things he does. And then it comes down to, do you put one of those Eagles defenders at 3? But I mean, Chris Jones is playing the best football on the planet right now.
Yeah. I mean,
like he wrecked that game by himself against Cincinnati.
It makes you wonder, like, do the Chiefs have 1, 2, 3, but the Eagles have 6 or 4 through 10?
And that's where I think the question, and we'll get into that, but I think that's where you might go is the Chiefs might have the top 3. 4 through 10 might all be Philly. Like the Chiefs have some undisputed studs, but that Philly team is
they're deep. They got a great roster. They do. Coming up next, we will take a look at number 15 and why never fret with Mahomes. To their 5th, or beg your pardon, the Chiefs are heading to their 3rd Super Bowl in 4 years. They hosted the AFC title game now 5 straight years. The Chiefs never once hosted the AFC title game. And then Patrick Mahomes showed up. The Chiefs were in 2 Super Bowls, their entire franchise history. And now in the last 5 years, they're going to make their 3rd Super Bowl appearance. I joked with Jesse Newell a little bit ago that how will you remember this? Will you remember this as the trash talk game, the Chris Jones game, or the ankle game? And the reason I bring up, one, the trash talk game, because the Chiefs players made very clear what went down before the week. Number 2, I want to give Chris Jones, his flowers, because he was the most dominant force in the game. He was. But the way you'll remember it is Patrick Mahomes on one ankle ran for 5 yards. All it was 5 yards. And somehow got them into the end zone. What's crazy about this is Patrick Mahomes has now guided 3 lead-changing drives, whether it's tied, in this situation tied, or took the lead in his playoff career that began with 1 minute or less on the clock. He's the only player in NFL history with more than 1. And he's got 3. 13 seconds, 30 seconds. And then in the game, his very first AFC title game, people forget, he led them down to force overtime. Butker with the field goal with no time left. He's on his own level. And we try not to take advantage of that. But you get kind of numb to it a little bit. You do. But I don't remember who I saw it on social media yesterday, but they said after this game, stop. We really can't be prisoners of the moment. Somebody actually took Joe Burrow as the advantage for the Bengals in this game. And I always try to look at every option. Is it because of the ankle? Was it because of the ankle? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there was no ankle, you better not be taking Joe Burrow. We need to pump the brakes on, and all this is because you got to have something to talk about. We're on the air so much. People need to fill time. People love to be the click guy, be the hot take guy. I mean, hell, Bart Scott should not have a job anymore because he said the Chiefs are not going to make the playoffs. He said they're not. Like, you shouldn't have a job anymore if you're that ridiculous. But we know that's not how it works. Patrick Mahomes is on his own level. You shouldn't even rank him. That is what I got from this game. On a bum ankle, he's throwing for 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interception, and not a single poorly thrown ball in the game. Do you know how many people would take that? That's a career game for 25 NFL starting quarterbacks. If they had that. And he did it on one leg. You just shake your head. One, because that's the Chiefs quarterback. We're still not used to this. He's still coming up and showing you different things. And that's what's so incredible. And a part of me, even my wife says last night when we were watching it, she goes, Jake, you're kind of negative right now. It's because it was the Bengals. If it were any other team, if it were the Bills, if it were the 49ers, if it were the Ravens, if it were the Chargers, I think I would have stayed strong and thought the Chiefs are winning this football game. But when the Chiefs punted the football to Andy Reid, and we're going to talk more about situations and stuff because we got a lot to get to with this game. There's so much going on in this one. I thought you just punted the football to the guy who has the Chiefs number. They do. He's got our number. And I did not think, I even tweeted it, there's no way the Chiefs win this game in regulation. They're going to need overtime. The hope is that they don't score and the Chiefs can win it in overtime. I did not think, because it was the Bengals. Shame on me. Shame on me.
And that to me is really the big final point to take away from so much of this game is this was supposed to be the team that had their number. This was the team the Chiefs just couldn't figure out. They couldn't find a way to beat them. They couldn't find a way to get the job done. That's what this team was and what Cincinnati was. And the script was playing out so much like every script before was in the previous 3 meetings. Chiefs had a lead in the fourth quarter. Something happens to squander it, and the Bengals tie the game up. The Bengals take a late lead, and they win the game because the Chiefs have a self-inflicted wound or two that limit their chance to win. And we got all that. Chiefs were leading early. Bengals eventually tied it. Mahomes had the weird drop on the snap. Like, we had it all. But the defense had never performed against the Bengals as great as today. Like, Mahomes willing this team to a win, I think that is something we all should have maybe expected more of and know the greatness that he is. But also the fact that that defense has never looked better against Cincinnati. And it starts a bit with a pass rush against a banged-up O-line, but that secondary played better than they ever had before. The tackling was improved. The Chiefs played their tails off defensively, and that is just another big thing from this and how well they played. But never take the greatness of how well this defense played for granted. But, man, never take Patrick Mahomes for granted. That is the overall be-all, end-all, is do not take that man for granted. Do not get bored of his greatness, because it'll be over before you know it, and we're witnessing one of possibly the greatest careers in the NFL history.
Coming up next, we'll finish things off with the mic drop. Wrapping things up here on Mic'd Up. It's time for the mic drop. Fulton, what do you got?
Chiefs are back to their third Super Bowl in 4 years.
Facts.
That's awesome. It's beautiful. Don't be a prisoner of the moment. Just appreciate what's happening.
Creed Humphrey and Jerick McKinnon went and stole beer from the Chiefs bar across from the locker room. That is awesome. That is awesome. Also, kudos to the Chiefs Kingdom out there. You were so loud that you stopped you stopped a play that was supposed to be stopped. Like, they allowed a play to go on because you were too loud. Chiefs Kingdom was incredible. You could definitely tell that it was up to 11, no question. Coming up, we got 580 Sports Talk. We got a lot more to get to coming up. Chiefs in the Super Bowl.